Hello and welcome to The Shameless Plug, a podcast about climate, energy and most of all, electrification. I'm Fiona Whitelaw and in today's episode, Saul and I speak to Sarah Aubrey. Sarah is an actor who lives in Sydney, and in 2022, Sarah went all in on her own electrification journey. She swapped out gas, added solar, put in heat pumps, and she didn't stop there. She waved goodbye to her petrol car and embraced an e-bike and started documenting her experiences on her Instagram account, which is called Electrify This. Sarah also now test drives EVs to inspire her audience. We spoke to Sarah about her advocacy and her run-in with her gas company that we will call her own act of civil disobedience.
Today on The Shameless Plug, I'm really excited to have electrification influencer and good friend Sarah Aubrey, who's going to talk to us about electrifying everything in her life, but hopefully we get a little bit of focus on the electrification of the heating in her home. And maybe because she's now out there on social media all the time talking about electrification, we can get some of her good stories about riding two-wheeled things and four-wheeled things, which I see a lot.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, so I've seen you on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how you got started doing that. Why do you do that?
Why do I do that?
Why do you do it? What do you do?
Why do I expose myself to major trolling? Well, actually, funnily enough, I started it on the 9th of December 2023, and I only had about 62 followers, mostly people that I knew. And I started the account because I had electrified my house, as Saul mentioned. And I had learnt so much doing that, so I had lots to share. But it just so happened I was on my local council, local democracy transport group, and I had a car on loan as a bit of a fact-finding mission. And I just thought, oh, look, I've got a background in acting and voice acting. I should probably do something with this, because I was making all these discoveries about the car, like, oh, you press the button and it makes no noise and the car's so quiet, and all these fabulous things that you forget once you've been driving an electric car for a while. So I thought, okay, well, I've got these two things. Maybe I'll start an Instagram account and just talk about all the things I'm learning and have learnt. So 2 weeks after I started the account, it was Christmas Day. And the only reason that we're having this conversation right now is because my mum got COVID on Christmas Day. And instead of being at my sister's having Christmas lunch, I was sitting out the back of her house drinking one of the many bottles of champagne that were at the house and eating Yorkshire pudding, because that was basically my Christmas lunch. And I was scrolling through my very new Instagram with 62 followers, and I noticed there were all of these comments from fossil fuel trolls, pillorying the car basically and giving me a hard time. And all I did was make a very innocent 18-second post, and all I said was something like, isn't that interesting that this account is, 2-3 weeks old, and already the fossil fuel trolls have found it? Isn't that interesting and revealing? And I just posted it. And for some reason, maybe because it was Christmas Day and it was a quiet day, it got put into recommended reels, and the post went completely viral. And so the trolls then piled on. In fact, there was so much activity going on the account, I wasn't allowed to comment. I was restricted from commenting or responding in any way or deleting anything or doing anything. And it got pushed out to very negative people, but it got pushed out to very positive people. So by the end of the week, I had 1,000 followers. About a week later, after that, I had 5,000 followers. It was going up 100 followers an hour at one point. So it just went crazy. And I had one hashtag on that post, and the hashtag was electrification.
Do you think it was a human or a robot, those first comments, the first trolling?
I think a bit of a mix. It's always hard to tell with bots or real people. It's always the same type of comment. It's always the same type of looking account. The profile picture will be one of 5 things. It will be no profile picture, a picture of an internal combustion engine car, a picture of a motorbike. It will be a picture of the Australian flag, or a man on a boat holding a very large fish. It'll be one of those things. And then whether it's real or not. usually 0 posts or maybe 3 friends and following 3,000 accounts. So they're the pretty obvious ones. But it's hard to tell. If it is a real person, it's usually, shall we say, a man of a certain age who's triggered by A, a woman talking, and B, electric cars, or just anything to do with electrification in general.
And so how often do the flying monkeys visit you? Like every second post, every third, every 10?
No, it depends on the post. There's only probably been maybe 4 or 5 posts where they've really gone crazy. One was about an electric battery, EV battery recycling plant in Germany. They went, in fact, I had to turn off the comments, or I made it so that you had to follow me in order to comment. Boom, stopped it like a tap. Another one was an ice cream van where I made a very offhand comment walking past an ice cream van saying, won't it be great when one day vehicles like that in particular, with kids standing near it, are electrified? Idling vehicle. Oh my God, they went crazy over that one. When I went down to the Illawarra and there was a house on the beachfront with 2 big signs which had misinformation on it. One was that they kill whales and the other one was a picture of them like 5 metres offshore and how it will look. And so I basically stood there and went, that's a lie because of X, Y and Z. And these are the type of houses that spread misinformation about wind turbines because look at their view. And they're just protecting their view and they live in houses like this worth this much money, and it just, oh my God. A lot of stuff from America came from that one. I could tell from the language. But yeah, a couple of other ones, all very similar. But yeah, there's just certain things that just really tick them off. Or whenever I talk about pollution, I showed the pollution on my windowsill, and they went crazy about that one as well. That pointing out how dirty ICE vehicles are is one that really drives them nuts.
It's so weird, isn't it? I mean, I think whatever the estimate of how much of the internet is currently dead, or, whatever the phrase is fake or just driven now, I think, by AI. I saw the other day that it's estimated like 60%. Some people are saying it's really difficult to establish, but
maybe we'll get to the point with AI slop that it just starts eating itself.
Well, I think it already is. Like, it's increasingly kind of self-referential. It's, it's like its own, it's got to the point where it's having its own existential crisis, where it's not even sure if itself is real.
It's getting dumber, feeding itself.
I think the Russian bots would be proud of that, eh? That's a very kind of, that's the end point, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
AI to have an existential crisis about being alive.
If it can. I think what's interesting is that I think people will gravitate more towards trusted voices. So that's something that I consider myself to be a trusted voice because I am just a curious consumer. I'm not an expert. I'm not selling anything. There's not a business that I'm promoting. And I actually think that matters in the car reviews, for example, that I do for electric cars. I'm not paid for that. There's no skin in the game for me. So I'm actually honest about the cars. And I think people genuinely appreciate that because when you potentially watch a car review that's on a particular website or a newspaper, there's advertising involved. And so people generally are probably quite nice or give a fairly good rating, maybe. But for me, I'm usually pretty fair. But I mean, generally most electric cars are very good. But if there's something that bothers me, I'll say it. And I think people very frequently, they message me and say, look, thank you so much for being honest. It's actually really helpful when you're shopping for a car.
What's the nastiest thing you've ever said about an EV?
Oh, so...
I don't know. I've got the Hyundai Insta at the moment and I just went, it's wired, Apple CarPlay wired, Android Auto. And I'm like, in 2025, really? It's that sort of thing. It's like, if you're going to charge so much for a car, then I think, it needs to have more range, or it's got to, not have basic stuff like that missing. Often it's stuff that's missing and they're charging too much for it rather than being nasty about a car. I don't really see the point of that.
My criticism is, I think all of these electric cars would be improved by the things you take away.
Actually, you know what? I have been very rude about the bings and bongs. And that's something that I'm starting to focus on right now in particular because, well, I think that's a problem with ANCAP more so. I've been focusing on that a lot, and I'm actually going to start doing an annoyance factor. And so how quickly you can turn those things off is now how I judge a car. So I just did 2 cars back to back, and I was so annoyed by how many steps you had to go through. And I think that's dangerous, having to go through your menu every single time to turn off something that's super irritating. And I just showed it, me driving, the four or five steps it took, and how bad that is. And I think if you pay that much money for a car, you should not have to turn it off every time you get in the car. It should be your choice to turn it off. So yes, and it's been bothering me more and more the more car launches I've been going to.
You're telling us that you're driving around in all of these different electric cars, and I'm thinking to myself, are you just buying lots of electric cars? Is this something that you want to, is there something
Mate, I wish.
How come you've got all these cars?
I think because once my numbers started growing anyway, the PR people take note, and I don't think there's many women actually reviewing electric cars at all. There's a few, but not many. And so when you approach them and say, look, I've got these numbers, I've got this audience, they just loan you a car for a week for free, and then you hand it back and hopefully haven't damaged it in any way, and then off you go.
I would like you with all your EV influence to... I'd like a new car buying experience where instead of you buy the base model and you add things you want, I want the base model and I want to be able to subtract all of the things I don't want. Like, I don't want the beeping. I got the Volkswagen van.
Mm-hmm.
Great car, can only be improved by taking crap off it. It has electric side doors and they move glacially, and my ADHD is like 10% closed, and my ADHD just wants to rip it off its hinges. I deserve the right to be able to slam my own door. I want the servo motors to go away.
Surely, out of all the people in the world, you'd be able to hack your car.
I'm absolutely going to avoid all the warranties, but I think this is a barrier to adoption. I think we need simple things that are simple to fix.
Do you think that's why the Slate? Everyone's gone a bit crazy for the Slate in the US because it's just so basic and simple, and people want to bring back regular buttons instead of tapping in screen for your vents and everything else. I think maybe there is a yearning to go back to simplicity.
I'm hoping the Slate does it.
I think the European Union are bringing back actual physical buttons for certain things like the aircon. They're insisting upon it, as far as I understand, for future vehicles.
I want a car that's as simple as the Volkswagen Beetle.
I want a car that's as simple as me. That's what I want. And my question to you, Saul, is if while those doors were closing glacially slowly, the car maker's solution for that is to announce how many percent closed they are with a little bong, 20% closed. Bong, 30. Your door is 30% closed. Please stand clear. Your door, wouldn't that be great? Yeah, and they were spinning it. That's how they think. Am I right, Sarah?
I have a bit of a concern, actually, because I think we potentially yearn for a bit more simplicity in vehicles. And I do frequently think about, look, could my mother drive this electric car if she got in it right now? And frequently I would say no. And I think, unfortunately, different markets prefer different things. I think we care in Australia more about the driving dynamics and how a car feels to drive. And that is important to us. But I think... and this is just a generalization. I actually think in China, for example, software is more important. And say they love all the bells and whistles and things that are dings and dongs and bings and bongs and does all sorts of things. And I actually feel like they're going to overcomplicate cars even further with AI. And I went to a talk in China with Geely, and it was just like, your AI, your car will be able to, if you say, put my window down, normally we'll go, great, the window goes down. Now it's going to have a conversation with you. Do you want it down to the level you had it last time? Or it's raining. Are you sure you really want to do that right now? And it's like, no, I don't want to have a conversation with my car. I just want it to put the window down. So I think there will be a bit of a push-pull in terms of how complex our cars get.
I'm pressing unsubscribe on that future. I think we're heading there. I'm like, I don't want that.
It's not good.
But then maybe that's how things have, always been. 20, 30 years ago, cars were made differently for different markets. I worked for a huge car company, and those cars were shipped out into different markets with different features, just depending on what, people liked. So maybe that's just the same.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. I do worry that it's getting very complex.
This is the get off my lawn part of the conversation.
Yeah.
So, Sarah, I've actually heard that your previous career was as a voice actor.
It's still my career, for sure. What, until AI kills it completely. Yes.
But as a voice actor, I've heard that you do an extremely good old lady. Can you do the old lady complaining about the user interface and all these EVs?
Oh, I don't know about all of these fandangled bings and bongs anymore. I just want to have a button. Give me a button. Any day of the week, and they don't even have the vents in the cars anymore. Back in my day, they didn't even have walls on the cars. You just used to drive around with 4 wheels, and that was about it, and one in your hand.
Thanks, Pearl. That's what I want. I want Pearl's future.
I would like Pearl to do all car reviews henceforth.
It would have cut through.
It really, really would.
All right, so Sarah, to backpedaling a little bit, tell us the backstory. To even get to the starting line of being able to be abused by the internet's angry white robots, you had to have more than a passing curiosity in electrification. So how did you, what led up to this? So I guess you had done most of your life.
Well, the funny thing is that I knew nothing about electrification until I randomly came across a book called... What's the name of your first book? The other book?
The Big Switch.
That's it, The Big Switch. It was that book. I listened to the free audio book that you had of that book. And so
rate me as a voice actor.
Did you even read any of them? There were people...
I think I did read. Oh, no, I read them.
I think you did read one chapter, I think.
Did you?
Okay.
But I learnt lots listening to that. And thank you for providing it for free. I did buy a copy of it for my brother-in-law just to make up for that. And it's basically your fault. I blame you completely. So it's rather serendipitous and random that we have now met and become friends because, yeah, it's all on you. And there was one line in that book that you said, maybe I'm just making this up now, but you said something like, it was just as effective as to electrify your house as to go out and buy an electric car. And I just thought, well, it's COVID. I'm working at home more. I'm not driving my car. I've gone from 12,000 kilometres a year to 3 and now nothing because I don't own a car right now. And I was like, well, okay, maybe I'll just do the house because that's where I'm spending all my time. And so October 2022, I had some money saved for a car and I just decided to put it in the home. And I just, over a 3-month period, I went completely nuts, did lots of research as I went and project managed the whole thing and just figured out what order I wanted to do things and then just got off gas, put in a heat pump, induction stove, ceiling fan, replaced the ducted air, which was at the end of its life, and put in 4 and actually 5 just wall splits, single reverse cycle air cons. Put in, unfortunately, a bit of a disaster with our solar initially. We were undersized by the installer. He only put in 1.7 and now we've got 4.7, which is still small but does the job for us. And yeah, just went through and got rid of all the gas and all the stinky things, got rid of the old unflued gas heater, which is fantastic, and put underfloor insulation in, topped up the roof insulation, and then we put in new glass. We had single pane glass in our Federation house, so we put in a double laminate, and they reconditioned the windows and routed around the windows and put in draft proofing around that, draft proofed around doors, and the house is a different house to live in now. And we went from using about 43 kilowatt hours a day in winter to the first year, I think we used 12, and the year after that, 14. It was a little bit colder. So yeah, a massive drop in, but a fully electric house. We had a gas bill at that time as well with that 43 kilowatt hours. And now so much less. And now since then, doing all that, we've got a battery as well. We put in a 24 kilowatt hour battery back in March, and then
just before the rebates, did the rebates hurt you?
And literally announced the rebate the week after I put the battery in. It was like, no, that's all right. And then I decided I just had to take advantage of that rebate. I did get a little bit of a discount because of who I am, and they expanded it and doubled it to a 48 kilowatt hour battery. And so since having that battery, we haven't had an electricity bill, and I hope to never have one ever again, which would be good.
48 kilowatt hour battery.
It's taller than me. In fact, it's taller than my friend who's about 6'3". So I think it's huge.
I like it. I think how tall is your battery is a good opener now.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have a driveway, so we have no possibility of doing vehicle to grid with a car. So I just thought, well, we'll just make the most of it as it is. And I'm really interested in the idea of trading energy and feeding it back into the grid when it's its dirtiest and making money and kind of introducing that. Obviously, if I'm doing it and I'm talking about it, it's introducing a lot of people to it. And I think that's important in itself.
You have a 48 kilowatt hour battery. That's, roughly 5 times the typical size, which is
Don't
10
judge me.
kilowatt hours.
Are you judging me about my battery size?
No. I'm impressed by the size of your battery.
Thanks.
I never considered having such a big battery from myself. So I'm having, I'm feeling small.
Mm-hmm.
Why? That's like 3 days of your use. You told us you use 14 kilowatt hours a day.
Actually, our usage has gone up a little bit at the moment because my partner's not very well. So instead of turning everything off at night, we've actually been experimenting with leaving the aircon on the entire time, but at about 20 degrees to keep the house at a steady temperature for someone who's not well. So we are consuming a bit more at the moment. And because we've stored all of that cheap energy and bought it cheaply, to be honest, I don't care. I'm like, sure.
You've chosen comfort, which sounds great. And that,
Yes.
that's a theme of what we're trying to say here is like, solving climate change, comfort, clean air. These things are no longer in conflict.
This house used to be colder inside than outside, and that is not the case now. It's amazing to live in it. It's over 100 years old, this house.
Well, let's go there because we've got 11 million houses in Australia. We'll have maybe 1 million more by the time we need to get zero emissions. So 1 million homes get to do it the easy way, which is a new build, but 11 million are going to get retrofitted. And you actually mentioned you've got one of the hardest cases, internal ducted heating.
Yeah, so that went because it was 15 years old and it had been repaired twice, and the ducting was well and truly past the end of its life. The hallway was really warm and the rest of the house was really tepid. And I think the life generally for that would be about 12 years old. And so we took that out. The previous owner had put it in, and we just put in those single air cons, which are way more energy efficient. So even right now with that front and back air conditioner on 24/7, the whole house is using about 400 or 500 watts. That's the fridge, that's the basics, that's everything. So it's very, very efficient.
One of the efficiencies is because, of course, you don't have to turn the aircon on in every room, whereas with the ducted, it's everywhere.
Yeah. And honestly, we leave the doors open, and I've got little, is it hygrometers or hygrometers in all the rooms, so I can sort of monitor what's going on with the temperature and the humidity, and it's either 19 or 20 degrees throughout the house. It's really pleasant. And then in the evenings, you either turn on the aircon in the lounge room or even better, put on the heated throw and just heat yourself rather than heating the room. And our house went from basically being a 2.9-star home to a 10-star home in 3 months. So it is possible. And that's before we put the battery in.
And I have insider knowledge that also, because you talked to me about it when I was interviewing you for the book, Plug In, that you're a fan of fans as well.
I am a fan of fans. It's my favourite thing we put in the house. So we just have one fan in the bedroom. I wish we'd put one in the lounge room and the dining room as well, because it's so unbelievably cheap to run. It doesn't even show up on the app when you look at it. And summer, it's so pleasant going to sleep with that going. And obviously we could reverse it in winter and push that hot air down, which would be great. So I wish I'd put it in some of the living spaces as well. And they look nice. They're so quiet. You sleep with that on and you don't even know it's on. And it's just lovely. I actually think the fan is one of those humble things that we really overlook. And I think it's one of the cheaper things that you can put into your home that has a massive impact. And dry mode as well. That was a big thing I discovered, that using, if you look on your air conditioner, that little teardrop or raindrop, if you put on dry mode, it uses about 1/3 of the electricity. And now that it's getting more and more humid in Sydney, for example, you have that on, you don't actually need to have cooling on. It's amazing. So all these little discoveries.
Can I admit something extremely embarrassing?
Go.
So I'm heat pump nerd, thermodynamics. I even started a company with a mate and we're building better window mini split systems. But the first time I learned what the drip mode was on your Instagram. I was like, I never used that because I have to learn something new on this
What does that
fandangled
do?
remote. Yeah.
Can I just, for the sake of the sound bites, can I just request that you never use the term drip mode again?
What did you call it, Sarah? It's not drip mode.
It's dry mode.
Teardrops mode.
Well, you
Dry mode.
look for the little raindrop or teardrop on your remote. I'm actually known in some circles as the dry mode lady, and I don't know whether that's a good or bad thing. I don't know.
I love it.
That's a big battery you have.
Thank you so much. Actually, I did have a guy at my local gym. He saw that video and he came up to me about a month later. It was just over a month later, and he went, "We tried dry mode. We saved $60 on our 1 month bill, just in 1 month, by using dry mode rather than using the cooling. Because my wife likes to have it on all the time, blah, blah, blah." So honestly, loads of people have saved money from it. And it's just one of those little things you can do as a little money saving thing in your home.
And for those who are trying to understand what it is, it's the difference between the air conditioner just dehydrating the air, taking the moisture out, versus actually cooling the air using the heat pump. So a lot of the time, you'll find you'll be more comfortable just by taking the moisture out of the air. So that's what drip mode, dry mode, raindrop mode, whatever we call it.
Actually, to do a shameless plug, this is Saul's book. And the most interesting part of this book, clearly, or at least the most important part, is pages 139 to 140 something, which is where he interviews me about my public and civil disobedience. So if you want to learn about what I did, check out his book, Plug In. Just get it from your library or buy it.
Sarah, you had gas in
I
your
did.
house.
Mm-hmm.
And then you decided you no longer wanted gas in your house. What did you do?
Well, in New South Wales, there's a very hefty abolishment fee of, what is it, Saul? It's over $1,300, isn't it? It's something outrageous.
$12.76 or $13.26, something. Yeah.
Something appalling that you spent all this money and then you get whacked at the end with this horrible fee. And so
This is the gas industry, ruining Australia's opportunity to once again decarbonise.
because in Victoria, you don't get charged that, right?
Not anymore.
Yeah, right. So can we just get onto that and fix that, please? Whoever's in charge of that decision, that would be great. Anyway, so I got my plumber when I put in my hot water heat pump. We didn't need the gas meter anymore, so my plumber removed the meter. And look, I'm not recommending people do this at all, but I got his card with his license number and I drove out to Old Guildford to the Zinfra metering place and I dumped my meter. I took a photo of the final reading, dumped my meter on the counter, and they had one of those, those old carbon copy books with the 3 carbon copy things. And he gave me a piece of paper and I came home and I went, cool. And I called up my, at that time, Power Shop was my retailer, and I said, look, I've gotten rid of gas. And they didn't have an ability to do anything about that. Said, are you moving? And I said, no. Are you renovating? I said, no. I just don't want gas anymore. But I could tell there was nothing in the system that could deal with that. Anyway, about a week later, the guy from the gas company turns up to read my meter, and he's like, I could see him on the camera scratching his head and kind of like, what? And he left a card with a note frantically written with his phone number saying, where's your meter? Anyway, so I called him and said, I've returned it. He said, well, what was the meter reading? And so I sent him the picture I'd taken of the meter reading. And a couple of weeks after that, someone else turned up and he was standing in my front yard and I saw him on the camera and he was sort of looking around. He said, well, where's your meter? I said, well, I've just capped it. And he said, oh, you can't just leave it like that. That's too dangerous. And then another couple of weeks after that, someone turned up in high vis and he was standing there with an iPad. And I'm like, are you right? He said, a team may turn up, I don't know, in an hour or so. And sure enough, a team of 4 people turned up, dug up a tiny little hole in the middle of the street, did whatever they needed to do in terms of capping the gas going into my house. The pipe's still there, but it's no longer gas going into the house. And they patched over it and off they went. And so I didn't pay my $1,300 odd to that particular gas company. And we never speak of it again. And then now everyone knows about it because it's in Saul's book. So there you go.
And this, my friends, is how you how you do civil disobedience and disconnecting from gas at the same time. Actually, this brings me to the question about the title of your Instagram account, Electrify This.
Mm-hmm.
And depending upon how you say it, it seems to have some attitude. Like, electrify this is kind of what you...
That's how I speak to the trolls.
Okay, yeah. Electrify this is sticking the finger to the gas company and the civil disobedience. I love it. Sarah, I'm an old school bicycle nerd. and was a bicycle actor. I actually love that you're also reviewing all the electric bicycles and electric motor scooters and mopeds.
Yep.
Talk to us about those. What's your favorite? Why aren't we doing more of that?
Again, I think that's the thing that's different about my account. I'm not just doing electric cars, and I wouldn't want my account to just be about cars. I'm very much about active transport. So I think our cities should be about moving people, not cars. And I don't think we should be prioritising cars. I think that's quite unusual for someone who reviews electric cars. And I rode a Vespa for 16 years, so I'm very familiar with riding on two wheels. And the greatest joy and my favourite thing I think I've bought out of any of the electrification is my e-bike, which is a Riesenmuller Tinker 2. My e-bike, I absolutely love it. And so, yeah, I haven't owned a car personally for 2 years. And previously I'd had a car since I was 24, and my e-bike does everything that I need it to do. And then I just have press cars in the meantime. We actually don't own an EV yet, which I'm very open about. We will buy one in the next sort of 6 to 12 months, depending on finances. But I don't know yet whether it'll be secondhand or a new one.
Tell me about the other cool two-wheel vehicles, like the scooters. And then, my bugbear is just like the ANCAP is making everything beep. The incredible conservatism over bicycle safety means that nothing fun is legal, and it has to have pedals, and we've got a diminished set of possibilities.
I think we do need to open our minds to this new mode of transport, whatever eventuates. People complain about kids, obviously, on fat bikes and that sort of thing, and demonising that. We need to make space for those vehicles on the road. I think we do that by creating quiet ways and separated paths, but also just slowing traffic down. And I'm riding a Fons scooter at the moment. I've had a couple of those. I read the Z series, which is their performance scooter, which the batteries are in the base of the scooter, which is pretty cool. And now I've got the Arthur 7 Australian company, female founded, which is great. And the batteries are removable. So if you live in an apartment, for example, or a house without off-street parking, you can actually remove each battery, take them inside and charge them. You can actually roll around on one battery if you want to. So that's really an affordable electric vehicle for people that don't have off-street parking. And I think hopefully we'll see more and more of that, because when I was in China, I saw electric scooters and little tuk-tuks and everything everywhere. Like, it was a huge part of the decarbonisation of the city. It was extraordinary. There was separated paths on each side of the road going different, one way, and they had bicycles and electric scooters riding in those lanes together, completely separated from the cars, separated from the footpath, beautiful plantings along and fences separating them, so very safe. But I was amazed by the choice and how many scooters themselves were on the road. Amazing.
I remember that little because I was in America and I called you and we were FaceTiming and you were in China and you said, I'm in a traffic jam, and then you said, listen to this, and you put your phone out the window and it was, all I could hear was the sound of birds tweeting. A traffic jam, no engine sounds.
Yeah. I still can't stop thinking about that. And when I hear noisy utes go past me, or noisy diesel buses and noisy, filthy trucks, I'm actually finding it still difficult. That was April. I'm still finding it difficult to accept now that we have to live with the filth and the noise pollution that we put up with, because we don't. I've seen the future. It's already happening in China. There's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't have that here. There's absolutely no reason to buy an internal combustion engine passenger car now, I think, unless you're buying a secondhand one. And I just think it's madness that we're still selling internal combustion engine vehicles, pure ones. Even if you just want a hybrid, not a pure electric car, we should be doing that now, because it makes such a difference to your environment as a driver, as a pedestrian, and as a cyclist or a motorcyclist or scooter rider. It's transformational. And hearing the birds in the trees and holding a normal conversation by the side of a busy road, why can't we have that? I want that.
I mean, we used to have it, the early 1900s.
Everyone remembers COVID. We had it during COVID.
Yeah. I just think it's extraordinary. There was a moment in history where we gave the roads, and the roads used to be a public play space.
Yeah.
Right? And we gave it all over to the car companies in the early 1900s.
And now, as pedestrians, we have to press beg buttons to cross the street.
I know. Oh, they also make a terrible beep.
Yes, well, true. But they, those are old bits of footage of people crossing the road in our cities, and there were horses and carriages and trams and the occasional car, but everyone was sharing those spaces together, and pedestrians absolutely owned those spaces as well. And then we just gave it up for the cars. And the car industry did that very much as a well, they made it illegal. They created jaywalking, right? They made it this thing that you would get fined for, and jaywalk, being a J, was a really offensive term, and that's what they did. They made it this shame, and then illegal and something you'd be fined for.
Well, I'm not sure we're going to get the genie all the way back in the bottle, but I've always thought I want every second or third street to have one lane of the road just given back to pedestrians and all of the electric scootery, bicycle, skateboardy things. I want to live in that world.
I can't see why we can't create routes through our neighbourhoods, especially if we slow down speed limits in suburbs. Well, there's no reason why you can't just be on the road riding around on those things anyway. Because if we slow down traffic to, say, 40, they've done it in my area. They've slowed down from 50 to 40, which at 30 would be even better. But not the main roads. Fine, you keep them for the traffic that needs to flow through quickly. But those back streets, it is madness that a single lane street like mine had a 50k speed limit on it. It's crazy. No one's going to be doing that. And the average speed of a car in the inner west of Sydney is 32 kilometres an hour anyway.
Oh, the average speed of a car in any city in the world of over 1 million people is about 18 or 19 kilometres an hour.
And then people lose their mind. If you slow traffic down, you say you're going to do it, people arc up and all the car drivers go, no, you can't do that. But actually, in reality...
And they hold up their fish on Instagram.
And they hold up their fish on their boat with their Australian flag.
They buy like a massive Maserati or something and then drive it around. They buy a car that is
at 18 kilometres an hour,
literally famous for being really fast.
In defence of the men holding up the fish, I currently have a new hobby because I find fishing a bit boring and sailing a bit boring. But if I fish and sail at the same time, then it's fully occupied and the demons go away. So if I drive my electric bike to sailboat to catch fish, it's a all-electric, zero-emission fish, and I think we should have those fish.
I will allow you to have that as a profile picture. As long as you have that little electrification thing behind you, which, for those listening,
Watch this space for a fish.
Saul has a little neon lightning bolt behind him.
You can have your profile pic as an electric eel. Just saying.
Just because I know that both of you have a soft spot for vintage Volkswagen hatchbacks, I'd like to offer room in this conversation for what are you going to electrify, Sarah Aubrey, that's crazy and old and interesting? What is your fantasy electric vehicle?
Listen, if I had silly money to spend on an EV conversion, it would be an old Mini. That would be my choice. But if you're offering, Saul, that's what I'm putting my hand up for, so feel free to go and do that for me. Or an old Golf, that would be great too. Or a Beetle. I do love a Volkswagen, but it's just such a shame that they're so expensive to convert unless it's someone like you who can probably do it yourself.
Yeah, and then it can be pretty reasonable, especially batteries are cheaper and cheaper. Well, we might do a special series of Sarah and Saul electrify a Mini Cooper S. I'm sure Fiona, who's handier with a wrench than me, will come up and help.
What would be your conversion, Fiona?
I had this truck a million years ago that I just totally loved. It was ridiculous. It was a Jackaroo.
Oh, yes.
Jackaroos. It had like a top speed of 80 kilometres an hour, and 4 speeds, and I don't know, I just had this sort of a rash. It was ridiculous. It was just a ridiculous vehicle, but...
Not on my bingo card. That was a Holden Jackaroo, right?
Well, yes and no.
It was a rebranded Mitsubishi is what I think it was.
No, was it Isuzu was the engine.
I would love to see more, like, remember the Brumby? Like those little cool utes, like things like that as electric vehicles, or K trucks or K cars.
Those
I want
K-trucks.
to see, I want to see more of that stuff on our roads, but I think there's reasons we can't, right?
My next car electrification project is a K truck.
So jealous.
I won it in a bed with my wife.
Wow.
I won permission to get a K truck, and I'm absolutely going to.
Ooh, so cool. So cool. But I'd love to see more vehicles like that on our road. I don't know if you're familiar with the Tello truck, things like that.
Yeah.
I just
For
think
those in the audience who don't know, K-Truck, I'm a little bit nerdy on this. In Japan in the 60s, they decided they want smaller vehicles that were more efficient. So they gave a special incentive, meaning you didn't have to pay on-road taxes and you didn't have to pay parking fees, which is a thing in Japan. If the truck, I might not get it right, I believe shorter than 3 meters, less tall than 1.6 or 1.8 meters, and less wide than 1.6. And so there's this cornucopia of tiny little cars called K cars and K trucks. The cutest ones are the trucks, which really looks like a
they've got no bonnet.
van. Yeah.
And they're wildly practical because they have really big beds. So they're way more practical than these big utes that are just glorified male fragility wagons, as I like to call them. But they're real working little vehicles. They're great.
Well, I'm going to pack my male fragility into a tiny little K truck and be very happy.
And I would say that you're a real man for doing that.
They look like Miyazaki.
I put my hand up right now for some cuter, fun, joyful cars. The Hyundai Insta right now I'm having an absolute ball with it. It's really fun. It costs too much money, but it's small. It's 1.6 meters wide and just over 3.8 meters.
I drove it in Adelaide last week or 2 weeks ago at the solar car race across Australia finish line. They had them, and they had all of the EVs, and I could have tried to drive any one. The only one I wanted to drive was the Insta, and it was awesome.
It's great.
Too expensive by half.
Too expensive.
But
yeah.
But right size, right format. Oh.
How much is it?
Look, it starts at 39 before on-road costs, which is madness because the Dolphin is 10 grand cheaper than that, and it's a bigger car. And then you've got Suzuki Ignis is like low 20s, so that's the issue with it. But I tell you, the interior is cream and chocolate with a houndstooth fabric on it, and I'm just like, I love it. And it's very 80s.
You come for the cuteness and then you stay for the houndstooth, was my experience.
Oh, yeah. If you buy that car and you don't get that interior, that is actually a criminal act. That's just not right.
Okay, Sarah, last question for you.
All right.
When you do your car reviews, tell us about the wine bottle test. What is the wine bottle test?
Well, it's not the only part. I do a walk around the boot and the frunk and then my likes and dislikes. But yes, I also do I call it the ultimate test. And I purchase my bottle of wine. I need to transport it home and drink responsibly. Where do I store it in my journey home? So it's my fun way of just sort of, does it fit in the door? Does it fit in the glove box? Does it fit in the center console? It's just a fun way, basically, of showing the storage in the front of the car for my bottle of shardy that I'm trying to transport home. And it does tend to be women, I'm not going to lie, who do cite that as being their favourite part of my reviewing of electric cars. And I'm probably the only car reviewer who does it. But I did have to make sure I do that transport at home, drink responsibly bit because I got all sorts of trolling from it. And as soon as I did that, it stopped all that. So
you could also have, just a suggestion, hold it like the fish. Hold the wine.
Right here is my profile pic.
Yeah.
In front of
and
me.
Hold it like really close to the camera so it looks huge as well. You reckon? I'd lean right back.
I think some people are always trying to work out what bottle of, I mean, I've probably done serious advertising accidentally for a whole bunch of wine companies, but yeah, like I do have a favourite drop, so it's often the same bottle. Yes, I'm probably one of the few people that do that, but it's a bit of fun. And that's it, really. I think we sort of tend to take cars very seriously, and I'm like, I look at a car like a consumer does. I look at practicality, storage. I don't talk about Newton meters of torque or kilowatt hour battery sizes. I just talk about the car for people who just want to drive a car and enjoy it rather than get into the technical stuff too much.
Yeah, you don't need to know how it works to drive it.
You probably do a little bit.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Most people drive a car, and most people don't know, regardless of what type of car they drive. They don't know everything about how it works.
Not
but
everything.
They can still drive it.
And to be honest, with an EV, you just turn it on and it goes. They are quite heavy on the software side. Some are easier, but a lot of people just turn on Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, and that's how they drive the car and don't really touch much else. So, yeah, it's how you feel in the car, how much space there is, how does it feel to drive? Is it a hard ride, soft ride? It's pretty basic stuff, but it's a good teaser to then potentially go and test drive that car. So I like to think of myself as a little taster.
Sarah Aubrey, Always surprising, always interesting. Love your journey, love your mission. Thanks very much for being on the Shameless Plug.
Thanks very much for having me.
The Shameless Plug is a podcast supported by Rewiring Australia and Rewiring America. It's hosted by me, Saul Griffith, and my mate Fiona Whitelaw. Our producers are Kathleen Burrows and Caitlin Chang. You can read more about today's guest in my latest book, Plug In, the Electrification Handbook, available in all good bookstores. Rewiring Australia and Rewiring America advocate for climate action you can do today in your home and your community. Let's electrify everything.